The 30-day challenge with the Nokia Lumia 920 comes to a close this week, so what better time to start a 30-day challenge with a device you've asked me a lot about. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and we've seen HTC and Samsung dominate the Android space, and perhaps on a larger smartphone scale, Apple and Samsung, but there's a big manufacturer that's taken for granted in a lot of situations. They do incredibly well internationally, and in the US, they're finally getting a little bit of traction, though they've got a lot of work to do to catch up with Apple and Samsung. It's the LG Optimus G Pro. This is day one of the 30-day challenge. You see a lot of Android competition between Samsung and HTC, and perhaps on a bigger smartphone scale between Apple and Samsung. But LG is a huge name, not just in the smartphone space, but particularly in the appliance space. I mean, when you look at it, they're on par with Samsung in terms of appliances. They have washers and dryers, they have TVs, they have monitors. They've got a really diversified company, and they're huge. They're actually Korean-based as well, so they compete in Samsung's home turf as well of South Korea with each other. They're a huge giant, but for whatever reason, that hasn't transitioned over into the smartphone space on the LG side. You see a lot of great LG smartphones, particularly in the past 6 months, but what my question is, and one of the things I want to find out in this 30-day challenge, how far has LG progressed from the LG of 2010, 2011, 2012, and even up to about 6 months ago? The Optimus G Pro is a great device all around specs-wise. It's got a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 600 CPU, a nice camera, 3,140 milliamp hour battery, a 5.5-inch display with 1080p HD capabilities. I mean, it's a nice device all around, and in a lot of ways, it outspecs the Samsung Galaxy Note 2. Where the Note 2 wins, though, availability on multiple carriers, a huge marketing budget behind it, which we haven't quite seen just yet with the LG Optimus G Pro. The availability here is also pretty limited. This is exclusively available on AT&T in the United States, one carrier out of 4 big US carriers. So when you look at the Note 2, you can get it on Verizon, on Sprint, or on T-Mobile in addition to AT&T. So for people that are looking for a phablet or a tablet phone style device, if you're on on Sprint, T-Mobile, or Verizon, kind of out of luck. You have to go with that if you want to stick with your current carrier. That said, incredible device all around, and it does not have an S Pen, but we're going to find out whether the software behind the S Pen combined with a marketing budget makes the Galaxy Note 2 the must-have device, or we'll take a look at LG, the Optimus G Pro, and see, you know what, LG's been behind in the smartphone space for a while. We saw the LG Revolution come out right around the Galaxy Note 2. It wasn't quite up to par, nearly up to par, I should say, as the Galaxy Note 2, but we're finally seeing devices. This was released, and it's better specs-wise than a lot of the specs on the Galaxy Note 2. So my question is, better specs, limited availability, or is it wider availability with the S Pen, but less specs? And obviously keep in mind the next iteration of the Galaxy Note most likely will come out this year. We'll play all that into consideration in this 30-day challenge, but I'm really excited to work with this because you see growth all around on LG's platform. You see Android 4.1 here, LG's user interface still intact on the Optimus G Pro, but huge improvements over what we saw at Mobile World Congress in 2011 and in 2012. Huge improvements all around. They're finally getting some of the nice stuff over to the US market on the carriers. You can see, of course, shortcuts up here, Q-Slide applications, multitasking capabilities, and more. So I can do my notepad here, as you see. Lots of different options on this device. That said, it's going up against a huge marketing budget that, even though company-wise they're very similar, LG hasn't quite invested in the smartphone space with the marketing budget. So keep that in mind. We'll take a look at that. In the meantime, in the 30-day challenge, I want to hear from you what you want to see in this challenge with the LG Optimus G Pro. Let me know on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, or on the Google Plus page at gplus.to/PhoneDog. My very initial impressions as I start to put my SIM card in this, I really like the improvements to LG's user interface. I think it's finally up to par with Sense 5, with TouchWiz, with iOS 7, and perhaps with Motorola's user interface, which is increasingly becoming less of a user interface and more of stock Android. But that said, people love stock Android, so I think it's up to par with that. The keyboard is much improved. The multitasking is a nice touch. Love the 1080p HD display. I'm just really curious what kind of traction we can see from this device with a much smaller marketing budget, availability on one carrier in the States, and more. So I'm excited to put this on my personal line for 30 days and take a look and see how it competes, not just against the Note 2, but against other high-end devices on the market. Hit me on Twitter or on Facebook or on Google Plus with your questions, what you want to see in this 30-day challenge. I'm excited to dive in, put it to the test, and see if LG has a winner on their hands or if it's just another device that's too little too late in the US market. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for updates, and I'll see you next time.